How to Face Old Age with Dignity. A Stoic's Guide. Old age. For some, it is feared. For others, it is denied. In a world obsessed with youth, strength, and beauty, old age is treated like an enemy, something to run from, something to hide. But the Stoics saw it differently. To them, old age was not something to dread, but something to embrace. Not a punishment, but a privilege. Seneca wrote, "Let us cherish and love old age, for it is full of pleasure if one knows how to use it." The Stoics believed that every season of life has its own dignity, its own wisdom, its own chance to live with virtue. So how do we face old age? Not with bitterness or fear, but with strength, peace, and grace. This is the Stoic Guide. The Stoics were always mindful of time. Seneca reminded us, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." To them, life was like a play. You don't decide how long the play lasts, only how well you act your part. And old age, far from being the end, was simply the final act. It was not a curse, but a natural stage of life. MarcusAurelius urged himself to see life in cycles. The flower blooms, then fades. The fruit ripens, then falls. The seasons change, and so do we. To resist this is to resist nature itself. But to accept it, to live in harmony with it, is to live with dignity. But let's be honest. Most people fear aging. We fear the loss of strength. We fear the loss of beauty. We fear the loss of relevance. We fear death creeping closer with each year. But the Stoics would ask us, are these things truly yours? Were they ever fully in your control? The body weakens, but did you command it to stay young forever? The skin wrinkles, but were you promised eternal beauty? Society praises youth, but is their opinion the measure of your worth? The Stoics remind us what is not in our control is not our true possession. And so, while others waste their energy resisting time, the Stoic accepts it. And in acceptance, he finds peace. Here is something surprising. The Stoics saw old age not as a prison, but as a form of freedom. Seneca wrote, "Old age is an opportunity to pursue virtue without distraction." Think about it. When we are young, we are pulled in every direction, by ambition, by desire, by competition, by passion. But in old age, much of this falls away. The race slows, the noise quiets, and what is left is clarity. Old age strips away illusions. It reminds us of what truly matters: wisdom, virtue, character, the things that time cannot take away. This, the Stoics believed, was the great dignity of aging, that it brings us closer to the essence of life. Of course, aging is not easy. The Stoics never pretended otherwise. The body grows weaker, the senses dull, the memory falters. But here is the key. Dignity comes not from avoiding decline, but from facing it with courage. Epictetus said, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do, and you will go on well." You cannot demand a body that never weakens. You cannot demand youth forever. But you can wish to accept life exactly as nature has designed it. And when you do, decline no longer feels like defeat. It feels like completion, the natural closing of a life well lived. The Stoics also taught gratitude. They saw every day, every year, as borrowed from fortune. Not something owed, but something given. MarcusAurelius reminded himself each morning, "When you arise, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Nowhere is this attitude more powerful than in old age. For to reach old age is itself a gift. Many never make it. Many are taken too soon. To To grow old, the Stoics would say, is proof that you have been given more time than most. It is a privilege, not a punishment. And when you see it this way, old age becomes not a burden, but a blessing. Youth is for strength. Middle age is for building, but old age is for wisdom. The Stoics valued wisdom above all. They saw it as the crown of a good life. An old person who has cultivated virtue becomes a teacher, not necessarily by words, but by example. Seneca said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." Old age is not the end of growth, but the ripening of it. It is the chance to reflect, to teach, to guide, to pass on lessons that no book or classroom can provide. The dignity of old age lies in this. It becomes less about striving and more about giving. Less about ambition and more about legacy. Of course, the shadow of old age is death. But the Stoics did not see death as an enemy. They saw it as a return, a dissolving into nature. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." And Epictetus reminded his students, "Death is nothing terrible, else it would have appeared so to Socrates." To the Stoics, death was not a tragedy. The tragedy was wasting life. So the dignity of old age lies in this: to live fully, to accept the end without terror, and to face it as calmly as one faces sleep. In this acceptance, old age finds its greatest peace. Now, how can we live old age the Stoic way in our modern world? Here are 5 principles. 1. Accept nature's course. Don't resist aging. Embrace it as the natural rhythm of life. Wrinkles, gray hair, slower steps, these are not enemies, but reminders of the journey traveled. 2. Focus on what remains, not what is lost. Strength may fade, but wisdom deepens. Beauty may shift, but dignity grows. Concentrate on the gifts of age. 3. Live with gratitude. Each day is borrowed time. Many never reach the years you now hold. Treat each moment as a gift. 4. Guide the younger. Share what you have learned. Be a source of calm, perspective, and wisdom in a restless world. 5. Prepare for death with peace. Do not obsess over when the end will come. Instead, live each day so fully that when death arrives, it finds you ready. This is how the Stoic ages with grace. Not by clinging to youth, but by embracing the beauty of completion. The Stoics would say, the end of life is not the enemy of life. It is part of it. Just as the setting sun is not a failure of the day, but its fulfillment, so too old age is not the ruin of life, but its ripening. A fruit that falls from the tree when ripe has not failed, it has completed its purpose. The same is true for us. The dignity of old age is not in denying decline, but in accepting it as the natural harvest of a life lived in tune with virtue. So, how do we face old age with dignity? By living each stage of life with acceptance, by valuing wisdom over beauty, virtue over strength, gratitude over fear, by seeing every wrinkle not as decay, but as the mark of survival, by embracing death not as the end of living, but as the natural closing of life's great play. Seneca reminds us, old age is a proof of a well-spent life, of a long existence. So, let us not fear old age. Let us face it as the Stoics did, with gratitude, with courage, with dignity. Because in truth, to reach old age is not to decline, it is to arrive. If this Stoic wisdom brought you peace, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Join us as we continue exploring the philosophy that teaches us not just how to live, but how to live with strength, serenity, and purpose at every stage of life. And whether you are young or old, may you face time as the Stoics did, not with fear,
but with dignity,